Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so before the break, so this is the third panel session. I'm Professor Joanne Yip from PolyU, and I welcome all of you to this session, Textile Innovation, Latest Development and Future Insight. So we would like to explore the cutting-edge research and how the industry practice will shaping our future, okay, shaping the futures of the textile. So begin with a session, and then each speaker will introduce themselves and give the background. So let's start with Rachel. So she is actually want to share her pioneering work in sustainable embellishment, and she want to push the boundary of the eco-friendly design. So Rachel.
Thanks, Joanne. It's a pleasure to be here. Could I have the clicker for slides?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thanks. So my background is in colour decoration and textiles. I don't know if I've done this right.
Yes, so Rachel's slide.
Thanks. So I'll start kind of near the big... Oh, I'm going to go back a little for a second. So I studied embroidery at Manchester Metropolitan University, which is in the north of England. And that was where kind of my fascination with making and materials was really embedded. And then I worked in screen printing and in textile swatch production. And then for many years, I worked as an embroidery technician at London College of Fashion. And I worked with hand stitching, with hand-guided machines, with digital embroidery, and also laser cutting. And while I was at the college, I also became increasingly involved in sustainability initiatives, so things like beekeeping and creating green spaces. And that made me realise that I wanted to combine both things, so my sustainability values and also my creative work together, which led me to go on to an MA in fashion and the environment. And that was where I first started working with Sequin. So I was creating bioplastic sequins, which were designed to dissolve after a few wears. So you can see in the picture, there's a model wearing a dress, and then it's the same dress, but the sequins have been dissolved. And the idea was for the sequins to disappear, so they weren't lasting in the environment for years and years. And that, I've gone the wrong way, I'm so sorry. And that experimental work led on to the founding of my company, which is a sustainable sequin company. At the moment, that company provides certified recycled synthetic plastic sequins. But my aim has always been to be able to produce commercially viable bioplastic sequins, so not ones that dissolve. And I've been working with different bioplastics, trying to find the most suitable for sequins, and also producing them for hand stitching and also for CAD work, which I'm sure I'll get a chance to speak to you about a little later on.
Thank you, Rachel. Next will be Martin. He will tell about us how his experience in the business innovation and cross-sector partnership driving the transformative changes across the industry. Thank you, Martin.
So I'm with Cobalt Fashion. I don't know, there it is, just one slide. So we're just a knitwear company focused only on knitwear. So we come at this from a very specific perspective. We're able, as the world's largest producer of knitwear, we're able to do some things on the tech side that might not be as easy to do if we were more broadly in fashion or more broadly in apparel manufacture. We're very deep upstream. We work with material suppliers, polymer chemists to create new materials, to create new yarns that we then turn into knitwear for these kinds of brands. Personally, I'm not a textile guy. I'm not an apparel person. I grew up with Procter & Gamble and Avery Dennison doing material science stuff. But I've spent 35 years working inside and outside corporates to partner together to bring things to the market. And I bring that to knitwear.
So thank you, Martin. you tell us the importance of cross-sector partnership and the business innovation. So next, we'll be invite the Dr. James MacDonald. He's actually leads in the computational protein design, very interesting topic. So could you please introduce yourself and your background?
Yeah, so I'm founder and CEO of Solena Materials. We started about 3.5 years ago. So we're actually a spin-out company from Imperial College London. So my background was physics and then biophysics. So I was working on understanding how proteins take up their structure based on their sequence. And then I bumped into a material scientist at a networking event. And then we came up with the idea, can we apply computational design of proteins to develop new types of textile fiber? So that's how the project started. And then we got some initial funding from various sources. The concept works straight away. We filed patents. And that led to a spin-out company, which we started quite recently. So, yeah, I think...
yeah, later on I will ask you more
Yeah,
about details,
more, yeah.
your secret. Okay, so finally we will have Jack. Okay, Mr. Jack Wong. Yeah, please.
I also have one slide.
So Jack, yeah.
Testing. All right. I'm leading the Softlines business in Intertek Hong Kong. I've spent around 17 years working in quality assurance and also sustainability. I'm mainly working closely with brands and retailers to get more safe and more responsible products on the market. My work focuses on a lot of how regulation, customer expectation, and the circular economy thinking are reshaping the future of the textile, what is good in textile. And this is why I'm particularly interested in high performance and also in sustainable innovation. And regarding Intertek, Intertek isn't just a testing lab. We actually provide a TIC service, which is the assurance, testing, inspection, and certifications to our customers to enable them to bring better, durable products in the world. And also go beyond compliance. We also validate sustainability claims, simulate real-world experience in the products, and try to translate the innovations into real-world benefit. Thank you.
Okay, so now you can see why two R&D people sit together, and then we have the testing, a quality assurance in here, and then finally businessman. Okay, so very good. Okay, this sitting plan. So now we go to the panel session. So each of you, I have 4 questions. Hopefully you can answer me one by one. Okay, so Rachel first, lady first. Your background actually span from embroidery, sustainable fashion, and also textile consultancy. So what inspired you to focus on sustainable secrets, and what have been the key milestone in developing this biodegradable, commercial, viable sequins? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I started focusing on sustainable sequins really when I was doing my MA. So it kind of was like quite a simple realization that these tiny, decorative, sparkly sequins, the things that make people really fall in love with the garment in the first place, are actually a really environmentally damaging part of the fashion industry. They're made from plastic, they're made from fossil fuels, predominantly oil. They often contain PVC. And really for me, the bit that I found most interesting and the bit that stayed with me is the fact that there's an imbalance in the durability of sequins. So there's really, really long-lasting plastic, and we're using it for something on a garment that might only get worn a couple of times. And that really was a design problem that I wanted to focus on. In terms of key milestones, I guess the first one would be creating those first bioplastic samples, because although they weren't commercially viable, it made me realise that we could reimagine embellishment in a different way. And then I needed to move from those samples to something that was going to work in the real world. So I worked with some universities to refine the chemistry of the sequins So the next kind of major milestone was producing a bioplastic that was both machine washable but also able to biodegrade in industrial composting at end of life. And that's quite a challenge because I want it to be stable in use but also to be able to return to the natural cycle when we don't want to use it anymore. And I'll do one quick final. I'll be really quick, honestly. One quick one is that proving that the material worked within the existing manufacturing system. So we use the normal punching machines that we'd use for conventional sequins, and that means that designers and factories don't need to change their whole processing. We can just have an innovation that slips straight in.
Okay, so my impression of Sequin is a very sparkling. The way that I handle my my dress with Sequin is never throw it away. I can keep it to wear for many, many years. But one point, of course, your body shape couldn't change too much, right? So I want to know a little bit more about, you mentioned about this biodegradable, bio-based Sequins. So how do you compare this environmental footprint, performance, or maybe I want to hear more is about the brands and designer. What do they think about this Sequin? So because traditional one is very sparkling, bio-based, I don't know how, but I can see the picture, right?
Yeah, so like I said, with conventional sequins, the problems with those are kind of right from extraction through to end of life. So they are made from fossil fuels that are non-renewable. They're high energy intensive in production. When you wear them, they can fall off in the natural environment. And then at end of life, they persist kind of for hundreds of years. So with the approach with the bioplastic ones was to sort of do the opposite each time, was to use renewable materials that are fast growing. And that obviously lowers the carbon footprint already at that point. Like we said, to make them washable and to make them biodegradable industrial composting at end of life. So throughout the life cycle, they're much more responsible, and it is more of a circular approach rather than the linear approach. And in terms of performance, yeah, it's really interesting when you're saying about kind of like sparkly sequins and things. The goal isn't necessarily to completely replicate petrochemical sequins. It's more thinking about what designers want and what's actually appropriate. So obviously we want something sparkly that's bright and that's fun, but it doesn't necessarily need to be as long-lasting as plastic. The feedback from brands has been really positive because a lot of brands are looking for ways to reduce their reliance on virgin plastics. So they're really interested in the whole idea. And the next bit really is to look at colour and finishes, because there's no point in making something that's made from a sustainable material if it's not going to be appealing to people. I think that's kind of the really important next bit. And price, obviously, is also something that we need to look at.
Okay, I can see Jack has a lot of questions, like this kind of product should have a lot of testing that go through, okay? So I will give you the time, okay? The next is about scaling up. Okay, so is this difficult to scale up that?
Yes. I don't have to just leave it at that point. Yeah, it's really difficult. I think there's two major problems. One is finding a contract manufacturer that's willing to do small volume and also work with a material that they've not worked before. Because in general, it's much less risky if they do a large batch and it's predictable material. So I've been working with universities, like I said, and they have helped me refine the material as much as I can, so it's predictable for factories to work with. And also we've tested the processing parameters so that we can give that information straight over to a manufacturer. And the other barrier, which won't be a shock to anybody, is cost and cash flow. Because it costs a lot of money to do R&D, and there's a lot of upfront costs that come with tooling, with testing, with certification and things like that. The money that you need to put in first before you can start getting any money back.
Okay, I will leave the collaboration question later. Okay, so Martin, it's your turn, because she just talked about the money. Okay, so turning idea into the business. So with actually your extensive experience in corporate leadership, and innovation. So what are the most effective strategies for turning textile innovation ideas into profitable, scalable business?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about things many of you probably know if you've been doing this for a while. The three key pitfalls, things that I see folks could do better, myself included. The first one is focusing on the problem. Einstein famously said, if you give me 24 hours to solve a challenge, I'll spend 23 of it on the problem and the last hour on the solution. And the reason is that it is so easy to fall in love with our tech. And as we're thinking about bringing a sustainable tech solution to the market, that's the biggest risk, is that we fall in love with this tech, it's sustainable, we know we can make a difference, and all our passion is around that tech. If it's not solving a problem, it's really difficult to get traction. And so the second key takeaway is build a coalition of the willing. These are people with whom we've validated the problem. They have some passion for that problem as well. Those are the folks that we want to surround ourselves with at the beginning, people who share a passion for the problem. And it's with them that we can validate the solution. And the solution validation, I had the opportunity to work with A.G. Lafley, CEO of P&G, and he was fond of saying, make a little, sell a little, learn a lot. And it's a wonderful axiom, and it works. And the sell a little, I will just say this, we're looking for people to give us something they value. Now, money is my favorite. So when we hear sell a little, we think about an actual transaction. But I would say there's more than just money that people really value that can validate the solution. If they're willing to give us their time, that's wonderful validation. They value their time. Time is a great validation. And the third one to not forget is reputation. If they're willing to give us their reputation, bring their network into this, they can help us build the coalition of the willing. So I look for, focus on the problem, build a coalition, make a little, sell a little, learn a lot.
Wow, 3 important key points. I hope you dropped it down. Okay, so it's about the core sector partnership. You have built partnership between corporate, startup, and academia. So how do this collaboration accelerate the textile innovation? So can you maybe share some successful example from your experience?
Yeah, the coalition of the willing that I mentioned before, it really is about building, a diverse set of perspectives. And we want people who don't necessarily agree with us or who have a different perspective on the problem or a different challenge to be part of that coalition. Because it really helps open our eyes to things that we need to see even if we don't want to see. The example that we're working with now at Cobalt Fashion is something we call algafila. It's knitwear made from sodium alginate or seaweed. So we're turning seaweed into sweaters and doing that through a collaboration with an upstream research team in Chinese mainland, NAMI. They're also here at Hong Kong Science and Technology Park, along with the next partner downstream, which is the filament manufacturer, an outfit called Grace, one of the largest yarn producers in China, in the world. And downstream from that, another partner, Consignee, and downstream from that, another brand, Polo in this case. So we bring all these folks together. One of the benefits of trying to do this in the context of a big company is you have a big network, right? And it really helps, and sometimes a little cash.
Okay, good to know. So about the organization development, so what kinds of cultural shifts are necessary with the company to foster continuous innovation in the textile sector?
Yeah, Joanne, this is the question that I keep thinking about.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about it, but I've continued to noodle on this because it's important, and I've focused more of my efforts. Before, I've been here in Hong Kong now about 7 years. I was 13 years before that in Shanghai. Before that in the Netherlands, and originally from the U.S. And those barriers, those cultural barriers are different. Culture comes from here, not here, right? And it's really just a manifestation of what we believe, what's important to us. There are some biases with respect to innovation that can get in the way, and those biases are different, often in different companies, in different regions. As I reflect on my last 7 years here in Hong Kong, there are two biases that came to mind. The first one was a status quo bias. If it's not broken, don't mess with it, right? And that's a very strong bias here in Hong Kong. Much stronger than it was even in Chinese mainland in the years that I spent in Shanghai. And the other one that surprised me coming here from Chinese mainland 7 years ago is what we call a permission bias. And sometimes with innovation, you have to feel the freedom to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. And that's, as business leaders, if we can encourage parts of our organization to let go of their permission bias, to let go of their status quo bias, give them some guardrails to work in, but encourage them to take a step into the unknown, we can help foster sustainable innovation in the market.
Thank you. Very good. Actually, as a R&D people, we very struggle. Sometimes we fail many times, and then the boss so unhappy face. Okay, so it's good to hear that. We have this encouragement. So about the talent development, okay? So corporates will hire a lot of talents, okay? Have you heard about buy or growth, okay? So how important actually the talent development in driving textile innovation? What approaches have you found the most effective in nurturing the next generation of innovator? Actually, our young generation, they're not born with innovation idea or whatever. Even they have, because without the technique, without their in-depth knowledge, the idea may not be really work. So from your point of view, how do you, attract or make a buy?
Yeah, when we spoke before about talent in the innovation context, we talked about a make or buy decision. As a company, as an organization, do we want to make talent or buy it, right? It's quicker to buy, but you pay more, potentially. The thing about innovation, it's not, and I say this as an educator, so I teach innovation at a few schools, but I will say this, one of the first things I talk about when I teach is that you don't have to teach people, you don't have to teach human beings how to innovate. Try stopping them. Try keeping a human being from not getting something they want. Innovation comes from here, more than here. You need a bit of both, but you can't stop people from innovating. So what we struggle with, and I was born in the 1960s, so my struggle with this is understanding what's going on here in my young talent. Where are they at? Because if you can tap into that, if you can find out what they're passionate about, where their passion comes from, you leverage that as business leaders. They'll innovate. You can't stop them, but you got to find out what they love.
Mm-hmm. That's why for this pitch, usually the investor want to see the founder, their eyes, whether they have the full passion. Now I understand. Okay, next term, James. Okay, so James, you have the Solena materials. You mentioned about the bio protein, right? So, but you use the method, computational protein design, deep learning, those AI terms to create materials. Well, can you explain a little bit?
So I think in the in the marketplace there isn't really a green premium, so you have to offer something quite unique to the customers, and so we're offering a combination of high performance, so the high performance equivalent to petroleum-based textile fibers, but without the downside. So we're made from they're made from petroleum. We're making fibers made from renewable feedstocks, and also our materials are biodegradable. And so where the computational design comes into it is we're designing the polymers at the molecular level, so the atomic level. and therefore we can tune into it different performance characteristics that our customers desire.
Okay. Well, how many of you studied textile before? Okay, few of you, okay? So my teacher told me fiber classification is natural fiber, regenerated fiber, and synthetic fiber. Now you come with this bioprotein fiber, right? Okay, so compare with those traditional fiber, can you tell us about the performance and sustainability?
Yeah, so they're made by, there's kind of two main manufacturing processes to making the fibers. So the first step is making the raw feedstocks, which we do using fermentation. So we essentially program microbes to produce the proteins we want. So we program in the particular sequence we want, and then purify those proteins. And the next step is a wet spinning process, which I think other speakers have mentioned earlier as well. So sorry, what was the rest of the
We actually have lunch together, so I try to understand. So I can imagine it's like making bread. So he's yeast, okay, to make something protein. But I asked you about the performance.
Performance, yes, yes. So we also obtain quite pretty high performance from our protein-based fibers. So for example, we have higher toughness than nylon 6/6 as an example of the performance. So they also have quite high extensibility. So they have some certain region of elasticity. They have a very soft hand feel, so we can spin very fine fibers, so between 10 and 20 microns. So on average, we normally spin about 15 micron diameter fibers, which gives it the nice hand feel. They also have high luster, so if when you spin them naturally, they have quite a sheen to them. But we can also add delustrants to the spinning process and make dull fibers. The other thing we can do is we can add a dye to the dope solution before spinning, and therefore we can avoid an extra dyeing step afterwards for the garments.
Okay, you speak all the terminology we learned from textile technology. Good. How about biodegradable? How many days or weeks that can be biodegradable?
Yeah, so we've done marine biodegradability testing. I can't remember the ISO standard, but it's one of the ISO standards. So essentially, you put the fibers into some marine samples, so water from the sea, and then you watch the evolution of carbon dioxide over a period of time to measure the rate of biodegradation. And so from memory, it essentially was very comparable to cellulosic fibers, and so the half-life was essentially, let's say, I think about 2 weeks half-life, but that's an accelerated timescale because it's an elevated temperature.
Okay, so you are trying to create the 4 categories of fiber, biomaterials. Okay, you may have a lot of enemy here. Okay, synthetic fiber, natural fiber people. Okay, so what do you think the future of the biomaterials? What is the role of this emerging technology? Do you think will be shaping our future?
Yeah, I think so. There's a big demand for new materials because there's legislation coming in. I think already in Europe. So extended producer responsibility legislation. So therefore, manufacturers will have responsibility for the whole life of their products in textiles. So there's a desperate need for new materials. So part of that can be addressed by recycling, so having a circular economy. But you can't address all the problems with textiles by doing that because you still have the problem with microplastic pollution, and that's something you can't avoid with petroleum-based plastic fibers.
So what do you think the most challenging, at this moment, when you want to do like big-scale commercialization?
I think the biggest challenge for us is we're scaling 2 quite challenging technologies. So the first one is the fermentation, so you're scaling a bioprocess, and that can be quite challenging and time-consuming. And also we're scaling the wet spinning process, which again comes with its own complexities and timescales to optimize.
Okay, so thank you, James. Jack, your turn. Okay, your 2 R&D business is in front of you. So with your extensive experience in the quality assurance, sustainability, and how do regulation compliance, circular economy, those practice support and drive the textile innovation?
The textile industry is undergoing significant transformation. I mean, it's leaning toward to biodiversity and also environmental impact. So when we looked at this is not only a trend, but this is driven by regulatory and also economy initiatives. So first we have the EU Green Deal. We have the US EPA strategy. These are tackling our waste problem heads on. This is pushing for a greater recyclability. And then second, we have the EU bioeconomy. This is steering us away from fossil fuel reliance. And then accelerating our adoption to bio-based and natural materials, which work in harmony in our ecosystem. And then lastly, we have the ESPR, which is the eco-design for sustainable product. This is the regulations that made eco-design a new standard. It demands durability. And last, but don't forget about traceability with our digital passport. We need to disclose this information to our suppliers. And together, this is making a more circular, a durable, and a sustainable trend of the textile industry.
Okay, so why I asked this question is because two of you, have you already complied with this? Not yet. Okay, you will understand later, okay? Very important. So next, I want to know a bit more about the apparel innovation for high-performance market. Okay, so a lot of us are doing high-performance market from the material, design, and evaluation. So I heard that you have the recent study cover the innovation for high-performance garment. So how this apparel innovation advising would benefit the wearers, and then what science-based initiative are most promising this moment?
I think the innovation textile has to emerge as functionality, comfort, and also sustainability. So I can give you an example of a recent development that we have. Is a mannequin-based testing equipment. This is for the high performance absorbency period panties. So we developed a testing method that can simulate real movement, precision, and leakage. So unlike the traditional testing only focus on how absorbency the fabric is, we actually using our development method to simulate the real movement. We can validate the construction integrity, the dynamic performance, and the most important is the consumer confident when they're using this innovative products in actual use. This is very important. And for the new initiative, for the upcoming science-based initiative, we have seen a lot of new material, like the bio-based material, the antimicrobial finishing. These are all, and also we have seen smart textile with embedded sensor. These are all very promising. But besides only enhancing the performance, we also have to make sure that this is more sustainable. We want to bring more sustainable, durable, and high-performance product into the market.
Okay, so I just want to make sure if they have the concern, they have the budget as well, what are the most critical considerations for the innovative textile material that can go to the market? And then any special certification they have to take it?
I think in the rush of embracing sustainability, sometimes we forget the fundamental. A product has to function as it is. We cannot skip safety and performance. Safety is non-negotiable. All the innovative material has to comply with the chemical restricted substance and the physical safety. There's no discussion about this. But when it comes to performance, because of the limited history of all these innovative materials, this becomes critical. How do we measure this? And this is something that we really have to look into. A t-shirt, for example, has to function as a t-shirt. It has to be washable. It has to be withstand UV exposure. It has to be okay. It has to be fine after daily wearing without falling apart. But we have heard a lot of great story about innovative, sustainable materials. I have seen a bio-based t-shirt. It sounds wonderfully on paper, very sustainable. But after a few washes, it fell apart. So what's good in a green product if it's not a good product, right? So this is why we have to make sure we focus on first the safety and the performance. Once we have this tackled, then we can look into sustainability. But sustainability is not just a word that we use. We have to verify this. This is why we have the GRS, the gold standard for organic recycled materials. And I think that together with all these, then we can start talking about we can bring saved, we can bring durable, and we can bring sustainability product which can be verified to the market.
So I guess a lot of brands talk to you, so you know a lot of secrets, right? So can you tell us a bit about trend? Like what trend you are seeing in the regulatory requirement, consumer expectation, or sustainability standard for new textile product, and how Intertek is adopting to support these changes?
I think that when we talked about sustainability, we are surrounded by a lot of certifications. We don't have a lot of labelings. We have labeling for recycled content. We have labeling for organic material. We have labeling for biodiversity, biodegradability, which are great. But this is only telling one chapter of a much bigger story. It doesn't give you a full overview of what is the environmental impact in your whole supply chain. And this is why we are leaning toward to a much more stronger approach, a more powerful and holistic overview, which is the life cycle assessment. The life cycle assessment is talking about the entire supply chain from raw material extractions to manufacture, to logistic packaging, to product in use and end of life. This is the whole cycle that we have to look at it. And then we have to see if this is really having a true positive impact to the environment.
Okay, so LCA, remember, life cycle assessment, I heard about that. Okay, so thank you for all the speakers for your insightful perspective so far. So now we will open up a cross-panel questions, okay? So invite you to flow up your floats. So I can see that the biggest opportunity is you are representing different parties. So what is the collaboration across the textile innovation ecosystem? So maybe Rachel first? Yeah.
Thanks. Yes, so my background is neither within chemistry or physics or anything else that it turns out would have been quite useful to have studied. So for me, it's really important for designers and textile people that study textiles to be able to collaborate with scientists and also manufacturers, because you just can't, innovation doesn't exist in a vacuum. And like Jack was saying, it's really important that what we make is suitable for the real world. And I think it's collaborating back and forth between designers, manufacturers and scientists so that we make something that's desirable to the consumer and also can be used and can be washed and kind of really works. Otherwise, it's just not sustainable. It might look beautiful, but it's not sustainable.
Okay. How about Martin?
As the business person, when I think about innovation in the context of sustainability, the big difference between that and non-sustainability is the role that policy needs to play. Okay, and there's a lot we could talk about policy, but I would argue as a business person, it's not yet strong enough. That clear and consistent policies, driving standards that allow us to know which way is north with respect to textile innovation is not there yet. It's not where it needs to be to drive step change yet. And so I would say if we walk out of this room, this is one person's opinion, if we walk out of this room collectively aligned on doing one thing, it's working with policymakers to get clarity on that and drive the heck out of it, right? Because that'll help all of us get where we need to go and really deliver a step change in the marketplace with respect to better players in the apparel industry and the textile industry on sustainability.
Thank you. How about James? what do you think the collaboration you really treasure, and what do you need for also for the collaboration?
Yeah. So we were quite lucky because we had a collaboration with a well-known fashion brand from Foundation. So in fact, we started the relationship while still at the university, and then that relationship continued after we spun out the company. And I think the problem with new materials, it takes a very long time to go from initial lab scale proof of concept to large scale production. So you need to have quite patient partners. And so we're quite lucky we have at least one patient partner. We have others we have proof of concept projects with as well. I think that's probably the main thing.
Okay, Jack, finally, we have a lot of questions. I need to, ask all of you.
When we talk to the customers, we always talk about the true sustainability is to validate the whole supply chain, the whole LCA. This is what I was talking about. The LCA actually is driving us away from just labeling a product to understand and truly improving the products. The collaboration I see is with Rachel Sequins, with James Protein Fiber, with Martin's talk about the seaweed sweater. I think that with our testing and advanced solution, it can actually bring a real edge to the market. Mm-hmm. We try to validate the claim so that you guys can stand out from other innovator, because everyone can claim what they are, but without the verification, it doesn't mean anything. And I think this is what Intertek standing is for. When it comes to textile innovation, we're not making new materials. It is not what we do. But we are making new testing method that align with your innovation. We develop testing method that can go along with your product and then test it and then tell the world that, hey, this is different. This actually work in performance. This is the differentiation.
Okay.
So this is what we want.
Don't put the mic off first, because a challenging question to ask you. Do you think LCAs create additional data fatigue or for the manufacturer across the supply chain?
That is a very good question. I think that's a very good question. LCA itself, when we listen to it, yes, it has a very holistic view. But I think one beauty of LCA is just that it's not giving you one score and telling you, hey, this is you doing good or you're doing bad. It is breaking down the entire supply chain per stage, so that you can pinpoint, okay, where is the area that I release the most carbon footprint? I can go and improve that. I think the LCA, like I said before, it's not just about getting a score, but to understand which is the pain point in your supply chain, and then you can work with your team and improve it.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to ask James, will biodegradable material perform poor compared with the normal natural fiber, like tearing strength, color fastness, etc.?
Well, no, because so the whole point of our innovation is that we have the high performance as well as the biodegradability. So so we achieve that by designing the molecules at the atomic level.
So you simply say that your biomaterial is better than the natural fiber like cotton?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yes, okay. So those people, cotton business, later on ask him more questions, okay? So, Rachel, will the Sequin be another material will block the recycle action on cloth, even though it can be biodegraded? So it is hard to be taken out for the yarn.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So I think it depends what the substrate is that you're stitching onto. So if I was going to design something that had bio-based sequins on it, I would put that onto a material that could be composted along with the sequins. And if I was going to make a recycled polyester top, then I would use recycled polyester sequins. So it would all kind of go into the right cycle afterwards.
Oh, I see. Okay, so your turn, Martin. How do manufacturers approach the adoption of innovative process or materials? That's the question. How do manufacturers approach adoption if there's something new material? Yeah.
So there's two parts to that answer. The first would be, do we know that manufacturer well enough to know what they're passionate about? As I mentioned before, innovation is as much here as it is here. And if they're not really into it and passionate about that, it's a tougher sell. You got to convince them with a P&L, which is the other side of the answer. So where's their passion? Where's their P&L?
Okay, thank you. So in last session that they asked the speaker what works, okay, for conclusion. So I'm very generous. I give you 2 works, okay? So let me draw some conclusion. I give you some second to talk, think about that. So today's discussion highlight how textile innovation is driven by creative design, scientific research, and strong collaboration. Our panelists saw the progress come from reimagining material, building partnership, and ensure quality and sustainability. So the takeaway actually from them first. So I will ask Rachel first. 2 words, 2 words. Oh, no, 2 words. Oh, okay, take the mic. Yeah.
I forgot the mic, sorry. Striving for better.
Striving better. Okay, thank you. Martin.
People and passion.
People and passion. James.
Creativity and patience.
Creativity, patience. Last.
Verify sustainability.
I thought it's money and money. Okay, so thank you very much. Thank you all the audience and thank you all the speakers. Thank you very much.